Okay, I had a disconnect in the circuitry, so to speak. All right, this is Shamanic Journey number 104. Discuss and talk about insofar as understanding, I guess, my own personal journey and understanding other people and the reflections we see in ourselves, others, as well as the general energy itself of the feeling of abandonment. You know, whenever we make steps or strides in different directions, based upon the fact of our own childhood, our own experiences, we kind of use it as a reference to that point going back to see the testing grounds to see if we're going to be supported or not. And really, whoever feels abandoned, suffers from an attack of their own being, feeling like they have a threat, there's a threat to their own existence. So in other words, if they don't go along with something, then they lose their opportunity for autonomy, they lose their ability to grow, to be their own individual, and to, in fact, on a subconscious level, to exist. So if I speak about my own experience growing up in my house, my mother was, I guess, had her own insecurities based upon her own personal experiences, like we all do. And she had this need to have my father around and control his actions. And I guess my father, through all the different interactions, felt that he would be abandoned by my mother in some way. She'd ignore him, not talk to him. And I saw this behavior throughout my life. And it created a sense of, in other words, you want to keep the battery on the charger. You don't want to take it off the charger and let it roam on its own, because then the battery could die. Not knowing, right, at that moment that you could take the cell phone or whatever you're doing and put it back on the charger to charge it up again. But there was always this distance that was so close in space that I never saw the autonomy of individuals, of grown-ups in my experience. And so it carried over to my own life in many ways. And almost like roots that travel underground, you can feel when you're making moves in your life that almost shake the system or the core of family foundation when you try to do something independent. That doesn't just apply to me, that applies to others as well. And despite where you are in your life, as long as you're aware of the fact of those underlying energies and those conflicts, then you're ahead of the game. So basically, we have different issues in our life, right? It's, abandonment issues. Like there's different symptoms that people feel, like a fear of rejection, a persistent worry that others will leave them or reject them. And so people stay around, they lose their own soul's purpose, they lose their true identity in the safety and in the comfort of things. And then what happens is we have a difficulty forming and maintaining relationships, right? It's trouble trusting others, not allowing others to become independent, to find their own way, because we ourselves can't do it ourselves. And then there's a sense of excessive jealousy, and then a tendency in some ways to sabotage relationships, which is basically trying to avoid feeling that emptiness of abandonment itself. And along with that comes the low self-esteem, the cycles of feeling like, why is one not feeling sufficient enough? Why can't one person feel like they can become independent and break free and do what they want to do? So it becomes like an emotional dysregulation, like difficulty managing emotions, because of the fact that these things keep going on and repeating throughout life. And it's important for us to really look at the actions of our own selves, right? There are certain times that in this process of not wanting to lose people, we sometimes people please. People who try to go to great lengths and look for approval from others because they don't want to feel the rejection. And then there's a compulsive self-reliance where it becomes codependent, because of the fact that if a person gets too far out of that range, then there's a feeling that they could be lost, that they won't come back, and then they won't be in contact anymore. And then there's a compulsive need for distraction, the need to dissociate, as I mentioned in the last Shamanic Journey, and this distraction of keeping oneself out of the sense of feeling things. So it's very important for us to self-reflect and ask the question where it stems from. What happened in our childhood? What happened with the adults in our lives? What happened thereafter in the relationships? And basically the question to ask is, what is our life teaching us, right? and who is mirroring the behaviors of the people we choose in our lives to show us what we're doing. Because when we see other people doing something, it's sometimes their behavior naturally, but it's also a reflection of our own inner workings that are reflected outward to show us. And unless we resolve that, then we cannot distance ourselves or differentiate between what's one person's and the other person in our company. And so it's so easy for other people to judge others, because what really is happening is because they're seeing themselves in the other person. Many people don't understand that concept, but it's very true. If you're by yourself, there's no one to mirror the behavior to you. But as soon as somebody comes in your vicinity, then they become a reflection of those feelings that you have. All right, so let's today go on a journey to find out, or maybe a spirit animal will pass on information to you and bring back some of the feelings that you experienced of abandonment, where it happened, when it happened, and try to reflect on it and allow just to be open to receive information that comes through. So we'll close our eyes, either sitting up or lying down, and then what we'll do is we will go on our journey, and then we will come into contact with a spirit animal you'll ask about the question of abandonment and see what information is presented to you. Just sit with the information, whatever images come through, whatever sounds come through, whatever colors come through, whatever information is relevant for this specific question. And it's a very important topic, right? It's a very important thing for us to understand the abandonment. If we stay still, we don't feel abandoned. If we don't move out of the comfort zone, we don't feel abandonment. But as soon as we get a little bit out of the zone, that makes other people feel uncomfortable. It's a way of us almost not being able to branch out or to grow. So if we keep that in mind, then we can eventually grow from that experience, I think. All right, so let's take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Closing our eyes, relaxing. If you can cover your eyes, even better. And let's go on our journey, number 104, to abandonment. Walking into the forest, taking a deep breath in, smelling the different scents of the pine trees and the blossoming flowers. As we walk the path, we can feel the sun's rays shining on our face. The warmth, the relaxation throughout our body. And as we continue on the path, up ahead, there's an opening into a cave. We walk into the darkness and use our hands to navigate. Up ahead, we can see the light shining from the other side. And we exit. Walking on an open, sunny path. As we continue on the path up ahead, to the very left, coming out of the woods and standing in the path in front of you is a spirit animal. What animal do you see? It moves closer to you and looks at you and waits for your question. You ask it about abandonment. Where you first felt those feelings and from whom. And how it impacts your life now. As an individual, as a partner, as a parent, and you listen for the answers. breath in and exhale. And thank your spirit animal for any information that was passed on. As you head back for the cave. Using your hands to navigate through the darkness. Walking in. Seeing the light from the other side. And walking back on the original trail. Take a deep breath in as you continue on the path. The sun at your back. The wind blowing through the trees. And you stop in front of a pine tree on the very left. You put your arms around it and exchange energy. Take a deep breath in, and you look up to the tree and thank it as you release your hands. You continue on the trail and walk out of the forest. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Move your fingers, move your toes, shrug your shoulders, and when you're ready, come back into the room. Okay, so today's subject was the subject of abandonment. We all can, I'm sure, retrace certain examples and experiences we've had with the feeling of abandonment, which usually starts off in childhood. We might have seen it amongst adults in our house. We might have experienced it with our parents. You might have seen it with siblings or felt it in relationships. Usually we go through these experiences and we feel stuck and contained in certain places, whether it be the relationships, whether it be as a child with parents, or whether it be among siblings themselves, or at work, where we feel it's hard for us to leave a certain job or to move on. And these issues are primarily based in blocked root chakras, where the fear and the insecurity exists. And usually the deep undercurrents of abandonment issues really play out. It's important for us to be aware of the experiences that we've had in our lives, and to understand that it's important for us to be able to be free, to be able to explore, for us to expand ourselves to our soul's purpose, and for us to retrace and to go back in time to look back and reflect on where we had these experiences. Hopefully today you've had the opportunity to receive some information from your spirit animal, which is usually a great way for you to subconsciously receive images, sounds, smells, or the ability just to relax and be in a state of receptivity. So when you go on this week and you interact with others and you reflect, think back on those times when you felt those abandonment issues, or when you feel them now, and understand that you have the right to grow, you have the right to expand, and to be independent and find your purpose. So hopefully you have a great week ahead, and if you're not watching it live, that you watch the replay, and hopefully you have good information. Maybe you could share it in the comments below. Okay, have a great evening, and thank you.